I do not care what planet you are from. If you want to be a real foam sniper, and I don't, and put in mind, this is an outcast title for a lot of nerfers. Okay? Because, let's face it, real sniper, what do? They shoot 500 yards, 600 yards. The ones that get medals have shot with a Barrett 50 outside of 1,000 yards. Now, in Nerf, are you going to be able to do that? No. But you're going to be farther away in distance than everybody else. Now, the only thing you can compare being a Nerf sniper to is pretty much what they do in Airsoft. And even then, people get made fun of just the way. Now, what I'm doing here is I am customizing my rod catch and my trigger catch. Now, this is the kind of tedious work you're going to have to do. You want to make a hot rod like that, or anything worthy of shooting in any means of what, if you can see it, if any means of what you would call Nerf sniper, okay? Now, the nice thing about the Star Shot, this is a grip assembly for a Star Shot, is that a Star Shot mechanically, other than the trigger catch and the trigger, does not have any limit on how far your trigger catch can go down or up. The nice thing about this is that somebody like me could take a setup like this and could be taking this and decide how much squeeze that this has, and then when I fire, how much climb does it have up. Now, as you can see, all I really have to do is clear this catch, and I've got a lot of clearance. A Star Shot has a lot of clearance for a catch. I mean, I've got a good 1/8 of an inch there. What I've done on this is I have brought the clearance on this down as such, and I've given this an inverse angle. And the reason I've given this an inverse angle is because a bird of prey with a long shot plunger tube will have a downward angle on its plunger rod. So, can you take a plunger rod out of the box and do it? Yeah, but you got to file down this and this, and put in mind this is polyethylene, high density polyethylene. So it doesn't look the cleanest when you do it. It also is a surface that paint doesn't stick to. So as you can see, with a little bit of a down there, it's still looser than I'd like. However, what I want to do is I want to cover the, oops, I have this in the wrong direction. I want it to cover the surface area of this catch as much as I can, so that I can hold effectively as much yield as I can. So, my only thing holding this down is this point right here. So, another thing, if you're gonna be a foam sniper, you gotta be good with files, and you've got to be a fairly proficient modder, because no one's gonna do this shit for you. Okay? A blaster like a long shot, that's a good field blaster. Yeah, it's bolt action. Yeah, it looks cool. Is it gonna do you great downrange? Picking off people? It can do okay. But if you want some real, more exacting placement of foam, you need to control what you do. There are people who have HPA rigs who go semi-auto, and yes, that could light up a field of foam about 200 feet away. But that's not my goal here. My goal is to shoot as few shots effectively to hit my target. Also, put in mind, for foam sniping, zing bows work great. Just take off the whistler, and you can hit people, you can cover areas hundreds of feet around. It's great. They're really good. Now notice how I curve that right there. So right now I'm trying to increase the dive of my catch. Okay. Most people don't know this, and this is why it becomes hard to make a mod guide for a blaster like a Butterfly. Alright, look at that. I got plenty of dive on that now. Now that's going to hold that real nice when I put in everything. Okay. So, there are many ways you can go about being a Nerf sniper. You can get yourself a good long shot and accuratize it. Make it more accurate. Give it better. Play with foam. Play with barreled materials. That sort of thing. You could get a zing bow. You could do what I did. You can get an HPA rig. There's lots of things. But having a fancy scope or something that looks tactical doesn't make you a Nerf sniper. Okay? Does not quantify you. If you're not the one commonly in your team trying to brick people from over 130 feet to 150 feet away, if not more, I have to say that, no, you are not a Nerf sniper. Okay? Sorry to let you down. Sorry to burst your bubble. So that's gonna, okay, so there we go. So cool, that's cool. So earlier, what I did, and don't do this without your parents' supervision or doing it for you, is I had taken a light up, and I had actually, and not in this ceiling fan wind, and I had actually melted this over here to refuse it. And then I took a flat fine file like this, and for about an hour, I did this. Yep, yes, folks, it's nerdy. It's, you know, it is, you know, not cool, like with flywheelers and your Nerf Modelists and all that stuff, but if you really want to go downtown, and you really want to be serious, that's it. Now, why a star shot, do you ask? Why? Why go with a star shot? Well, it goes with my project, my Ultra Match project, which started out with the Fire Strikes, where I was pulling about 130 flat to begin with. Of course, as usual, it was a big argument because, well, a Fire Strike has never pulled that kind of range before. There have been some Night Finders that have come close, but nothing really that serious. Well, it was decided that obviously I want to go pistols. Why fight it? So I decided to make carbine blasters. This here is a 13-inch Ultra Match barrel, right here. It's been round sounded as so. Now again, I want you to look at that. Okay, look at the barrel, and then look at this plunger right here. Boom, as so. You see how it's off? It's off on the angle because it's diving down. It's giving it more bite. So this 35 kilograms of spring force actually will work out better. So let's see what kind of speed we get. 258. 258. Did you see that and hear that? With a normal number 6 slug, that's enough to get 120 feet. With an X dart, especially one that's nicely glued, nicely made like I make them, you're talking, you could almost pull 200 flat. If you arch it a little, you can get over 200 feet. You usually are not trying to get that kind of extreme range. It becomes very difficult to control the elements, the wind, the heat, and everything else. Coop would probably laugh at this, and I hope he does. You know, Frank Cooper wouldn't think this is funny at all. I mean, he'd be like, God, Chris, you're a fucking nerd. Hey, that's okay. That's okay, Frank. I understand. Respect you all the same. You know, because, honestly, each to his own. Okay, everybody plays Nerf in their own way, and this is how I play. Breaking people from far away with blasters that do 260, 270 feet per second. Now, the thing is also your ammo. You throw a normal streamline in here, and you're either going to blow it to shreds, or it's going to fly in every little direction. So, back in the day when I started my Ultra Match project, I first found that a 9/16 Ultra Match countersink would do really well. This one's adjustable, by the way. I'm still trying to find the max distance for 67 cc's of air. And it accuratized the darts, but the big thing that made it more feasible to be a Nerf sniper, a foam sniper, was these X dots right here. This is EVA foam and an Explorer X2 head. Here is their system with the yellow foam right here and an X2 head. Basically, these heads right here, they are made by Explorer. We get a more current color. They are made in Singapore. And they cost, before shipping, they cost about $12 for a pack of 100. After shipping that and the thing of foam, you're going to pay maybe 35 bucks. It's pretty good. The other thing is that your length, 1 7/16. Okay? And your back edges, you've got to have a sizing die. Okay? And you've got to make these as straight as possible. Because any little variation, as it's going out the brass, will throw the dart in one direction or the other. You have to have these precise. And even as you try to control the glue, if you see my gluing videos on this, You control the glue, you control the dart heads, you control everything, okay? You're still going to have some variance. You're still, at 150 feet, you're going to miss people maybe by a few inches, okay? And maybe 10% of your shots will hit. Well, if they can't hit you at all, you have the house edge. And you have to see it that way when you're shooting from far away. It's not going to be one shot, one kill from across the schoolyard every fucking time. You really got to be patient when you play, and you really got to be one of those people who's ready to go. Now, my picture, if you've ever seen it, my picture of Armageddon, where I have the long shot on the side as a secondary. As a matter of fact, yes, a Explorer long shot is a secondary. As great of a blaster as it is, to me it's a secondary, because it doesn't fit what I'm trying to do. Now, if I'm going in and I'm moving position and I'm salting, oh yes, I'll take that with me, and I'll lay down some foam. But I normally just battle with these, and you can see on the picture, if you look on the right side, you can see a recon on a holster. Now, if I am ambushed by somebody, I'll pull that out and start rapid fire shooting at people. That blaster could be a recon, could be a retaliator, could be a strife, could be a hammer shot, could be whatever you decide. But if you're playing Nerf Sniper, you have to have a good, reliable backup weapon. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Sniper, even the guy that plays in Sniper, plays that one shot one kill guy, he's got a Sig Sauer 226. I mean, he's got an automatic pistol, right? Even though he's got a bolt action model 700, he still has a pistol, okay? The other thing that you need to understand if you're going to be a Nerf Sniper is, one, you have to have a decent scope. This one today I had to glue because this whole part is just plastic, and it's only held in by this part and this part. Well, that's great, but you have two adjustment screws right here and here that basically look down the inside, and eventually it's going to pull away from it. It kept inching on me, and I couldn't figure out why every time I went to a meet I had to adjust it. Well, come to find out that this piece of nylon right here was separating from the scope tube. So I sanded inside of it pretty nice. You can see a single sand mark on the outside, and I crazy glued this to the back here, over here, and I left these screws here, so that it would be more solid. And you also want to be very careful not to get any glue on the inside when you do this. Otherwise, you will fog up your optics, because that's what happens with the Nerf blaster. You need solid optics. You need a solid mount. This is a custom mount that I made, and it's glued here and glued here, so that if I wanted to take it apart, I could yank it from the shell. But when I'm playing, it's moved. Don't ever grab your blaster by the optics. Ever. Always grab it by the handle, or the brass for that matter, because it will print. Okay, and always hold it with a hand position, a forearm position, like so. You want it as stable as you can get, and you need to control your trigger shake. Like normally, if you fire, see that? Did you see that movement right there? Yeah, you have to control that, so it's very nil, so you stay on target when you fire. You also need velocity. Obviously, I've got 260 feet per second. Somebody like Liam Davis is pulling like 300, 350 feet per second because he's air-powered. Now, me, personally, I don't like air-powered. That's my personal choice. I'm not knocking air-power. It's the mainstay in Nerf, okay? I just like one draw, one pull, and exactly the same amount of force every time you fire. It takes out the variable, but there's another way of doing that, of course. You can simply use a PSI gauge on your tank and make sure it's always 60 pounds or 50 pounds or 70 pounds or whatever you have, and make sure that's always the same. Or use an automatic charger, so it automatically charges to that. But it's very important. So like if you have an air blaster, let's say you have a 2K, you're always pumping 8 or 9 pumps. Not like 6 or 10 or 5, and then you're not going to get the same trajectory or the same velocity. You want to control your velocity more than anything. It's just like you want to control your airflow of your darts. This dart design right here, which is a much more aerodynamic design than an FEJ or an elite dart, and definitely a Koosh. A Koosh won't go very far. It cuts through the air. It uses the air to actually reach the target. That's why they do so good. Another thing is there's these ACC darts, the accurate darts as they call them. They are not very good. The density on the front, they tend to sputter at long range. they tend to wobble as much. Fishtail. These don't fishtail. When I fire these, they're going straight. I mean, these things do not fishtail. But they fishtail a bit. They're just not glued really well. You can see how solid mine are glued. They're not glued very well. You got to be very serious in tying up everything if you're going to have a Nerf sniper rig, a foam sniper rig. You've got to be very good. Okay. This is the spring that's in here. That's it right there. Believe it or not, that's from a kink-free hose saver that you get from like Home Depot. But the ends are, of course, filed flat again. Like I said, you got to be good with the file. And why is this? Well, if I had the spring in my blaster, for example, when I push it down, it would do this. It would kink. And of course, that's going to make my plunger head do that, because it's a floating plunger head in there. It's not held solid by the plunger rod. And this is to give it more clearance, so I can use a heavy spring like this. Give me an inch and a half of solid spring space. If that happens and it kinks, if you have any inside springs, like this one has a magnet spring inside of it to give it a little bit more of a push at the very end of the plunger stroke and give me those high velocities. With this spring alone, it would only do 210, 220s. As soon as I put that magnet spring in there, I got these toaster high velocity ratings. You can't just get a spring and throw it in there. You have to really balance it out. I am also not a big fan of long springs and long plunger rods, and there's a reason. The longer the plunger rod, the more air it has. The more more air you have to dissipate before it leaves the barrel. The Ultramatch series uses a small amount of air, but very high compression ratio. Very high compression, very instant at once fire. And what that does is it makes it so it'll fire the dart out with very high compression, and then when it goes out, this is almost closed completely, and then this diffuses the air around it, centers the dart, and fires, using the rest of the high speed, low pressure air. That's what an Ultramatch barrel end does. The result of this is a dart that doesn't fishtail, doesn't move, doesn't do crazy stuff. It's one of the reasons why a long shot is much better as a field blaster. It has 100 cc's of air, but even with a 12-inch barrel, there's a lot of fishtailing and stuff that goes on because it's not precise. This is precise. 1.7 to 1 plunger tube ratio to barrel ratio. It has 1.7 the amount of plunger tube as it does the barrel. The functional barrel, the 1732 part of it, because this functional part's only 11 inches, and the other 2 inches is the 9/16, and what you see is sort of a junction here where the two meet together. What that does is it ensures that I have 22 psi, which is enough power to get the dart out without the dart losing speed to friction, but at the same time, it makes sure that the potential of the spring force and the plunger tube is all spent. Now, if this is too nerdy for you, be a flywheeler like Cooper, or like Drac. Lord Drac prefers flywheels. You'll notice a lot of good Nerf players prefer flywheels, and do understand that when you're playing a Nerf battle, control of the center part of the battlefield, the main force of a Nerf battle is usually your flywheelers, your melee, and your rapid fire blasters. Okay, the people like me and the Zingbo people are the people in the outer perimeter trying to pick off and cover my team. It's also very useful because I can't hit you, and you can run in and save the team with a rapid fire blaster or retaliator or recon if you have to, and I've done that. But what you have to understand, it's not as simple as it seems.